And to be fair, as I say that, I'm like, we know what Beryl is capable of in both ways. That actually was a very classic Beryl game. It's just unfortunate that Deft was also dragged into the depths, as there was that Azir ban that we expected in game number 1. Didn't come through, will come through this time around.
Maybe that's what happens when you just spend too much time playing with Beryl. You just get infected by the wackiness.
I've watched back the 2020 or 2020 Worlds recently, and you'd be shocked at how many Beryl moments there were, even back then when he was, without a shadow of a doubt, one of the best supports in the world. Very funny to see, knowing what would happen in the 2 years afterwards. Tristana going to get taken away here as well. Most likely, even with the Jhin being available, I imagine that KT is going to try and secure themselves the Ziggs here.
Yeah, so what T1 are doing, they're saying, okay, you can get Rumble, but we're going to get Ziggs. And essentially, it's a trade, right? You take away Maokai, another really strong pick, and you say, we want to get one of these tippy top tier picks as well. But
so I think that's not as bad if Jin's not available, but if you end up trading Ziggs for Jhin, I don't think you're going to be feeling too bad about that, and I imagine Perfect's going to feel much better with this than what he had last time around.
Rumble Jhin also such a strong combo. The buy has been left open though, so there's that in return, but the thing with Jhin is you can actually operate at such a long distance away from any fights with the ultimate. If Rumble drops his equalizer on top of Ziggs and you just open up with the curtain call, very hard for T1 to mitigate that. Now the Skarner's going to come through. Obviously we saw last game the power can have.
Oh.
Not going for the Jhin. A bit interesting.
His Jhin is so good, we saw it yesterday.
Like, I understand, like, these 3 picks make sense. I understand why they want to get them, but you're not getting Jhin now. And I think that was a part of the reason we were like, okay, this makes sense. This trade is okay. Rumble Jhin for Ziggs, but now they'll obviously have missed out on that. I'd expect a mid lane pick here for T1 to match up into BDD, but apparently not. They think there's enough available for Faker, or at least the priority list has dropped. So instead, the Ornn going to come through, presumably for Zeus, most likely.
Wow, who could have known?
Oh, what a shock.
Does come through. Definitely not going to be fun for Zeus early. But now, T1 is the team with Ziggs, so they can actually lane swap and not take too much of a hit, given how strong Ziggs' is pushing power and his passive is. And Ornn obviously is going to feel a lot better in a 1v2 in a lane swap situation, if that does end up being the distribution compared to a Rumble. What is Faker going to play though? Because now the opportunity here for KT Rolster, the Poppy takeaway should come as no surprise after the previous game, into this Yone. Because BDD, I think, was the one shining light in the last game. It was a shining light in the Hurricane, so it didn't really do a whole lot. But he did try to make it work with the Rumble. Is a really strong 2-ult combo there. So they're able to leverage that into T1.
Yeah, and the MF has been left open, so could you see Def pick up that again? Perhaps if you don't get so far behind against the Ziggs, not going to fare as badly. And banning the Senna away from T1, I guess concerned of like... I mean, I guess Senna Ziggs is possible. Maybe like a Senna Ornn bot lane and Ziggs mid. I think that's a weird... I wouldn't expect that, but just not wanting to deny it. Interestingly, they don't ban away the Corki. Maybe aware that it's lost so many times in a row and like, no, T1, you can pick Corki. You're fine to do it. But instead, looking in a different direction, I feel like they need AD with his composition, and that means it's going to be the Nasus. It's going to be the Nasus.
Of course,
I think T1 fans holding their breath as they saw the 10 lost streak Corki hovered there.
This is very, I mean, on paper, it looks like we definitely get that mid into the Yone, and then the Ornn is in the top side with the lane swaps and everything. So just waiting on a support counter pick here for Carriot on the side of T1.
I'm just saying, Janna goes really hard here if this row gets locked in, okay? I don't think it's what we're getting. I think what we're getting is Alistar. But I think it'd be cool. The interesting thing for me, though, is that T1's composition, this Nasus, feels kind of weird when you have Vi Ziggs already, right? Vi Ziggs kind of signals that you want to go in aggressively, you want to try and blow up targets in a second. I think the Ornn can do that to a certain extent. But with the Nasus added as well, it gets a little weird. Deft can now also go for the poke build, meaning that you have a lot of effective range added to this composition when you get to the mid to late stages.
I also think she does pretty hard to itemize against Kai'Sa, pretty good at cutting through bulk, and there is a lot of bulk on the side of T1. Plus, if you take out the Ziggs, it's just frontline left. So I think KT definitely have a game plan to kill Guma and then just cut through the rest, especially if Yone, if BDD has a good game, if he gets ahead, a lot of the targets just aren't able to get a cut through his sustain, and then the Bard comes through for carrier. I'm not really a big fan of Bard here. I think Bard is best utilized when you're playing into a mobile carries. You can set up an ult on them. Obviously, there's other value in his roam potential. But there's so much dive threat here. Like, as a Bard, if you're roaming around, they will just look to kill you, and it's not going to be that difficult.
Yeah, it doesn't feel like there's a whole lot of peel outside of like self-peel from the Ziggs. You could definitely see the Alistair. That was kind of our expected pick. That would offer you that very common into the Rel, but instead it's just more setup, you would say, for T1's team fighting rather than safety for some of their squishies.
Yeah, but it does mean that in the 5v5, I think you see what the T1 comps wants to do, but like the 2v2s, the 3v3s, they look kind of clanky, right? You have Ornn, who I think in theory should be able to get through laning phase, but isn't really going to offer you that much power. And then outside of getting a really big Vi and Ziggs combo, feels like the mid game is going to be kind of weak. And I think that if you get past mid game with the power that KT have, when you get to mid to late, in terms of the role, the Kai'Sa Yone in particular, with a Rumble to boot, laning phase is going to be really hard to get through here.
Yeah, I'm not convinced by this T1 composition. I think there's some problems they're going to face in the game, and they're already 1-0 up, which is obviously good, but they're going to have to battle through if they want to get a win here.
What about a double, level 1 for KT this time?
Well, let's hope we don't see what we saw in Game 1 at the beginning of that one. Let's jump onto the rift for Game 2.
소환사의 협곡에 오신 것을 환영합니다.
You can really feel, I don't want to call it desperation, but the raw emotion.
The desperation.
Of both teams wanting to make it to World so badly.
It's only one slot. And DK were able to get in ahead of T1. A lot of people expecting T1 to win that series. It did not happen. We win 5 games. DK took it down. And so we have the telecom war for one spot. And only one of Faker or Deft can get the most Worlds attendance award at 9. Both of them on 8 currently. But if you win tonight, you get that number 9 for those individual players. As KT is looking to invade here and set up their on the top side, although Barrel is down on the bottom side of the map at the moment, so we'll see where they go with this.
Yeah, I guess maybe concerned about playing into the double ranged as ranged melee.
Oh, Carrier got one. Also
Forced the smite.
Forced the smite, yeah. And now Barrel's just 1v1ing a Ziggs with Ignite. And, I mean, Guma, Ziggs, level 1 is not very strong. And here comes Barrel again. That's another jump forward, although now with the wave coming in, Barrel is going to back away.
Yeah, I guess he used the W cooldown twice on Guma, so chunks him out, but not really able to do much else. Interesting adaptation, though. You know, we see the lane swap. We just get the Barrel solo lane now.
Yeah, but he has a support item, though.
I think it's just more about the
teleport.
XP.
Yeah,
and
well,
the teleport's going to come in.
Still, I think Def now being towards the bot side of the map also due to... Oh,
nice reaction from Guma. Barrel sprinting straight at him. At the end of the day, though, good reaction, but Barrel is able to trade flashes with the Ziggs, which is always going to feel very nice when he's got Hex Flash.
And this has worked out for KT because they avoid Guma and Carry having a level 2 advantage, which they would typically get in range versus range melee. But they also return to the lanes quickly because they don't want to keep the Rumble away from the Ornn. I actually think this has worked out quite well for them overall.
Only one that did have to pay the price is Pioshik, right? Because Carrier staying around in that jungle delayed Pioshik very, very heavily, so he didn't actually end up getting the red buff. Only got 3, so missed I think 1 or 2 of the small raptors, and now he's getting invaded. So Owner is going to be really far ahead of the Skarner very early on, as he's even going to be able to take the Krugs here with this lane getting shoved in. It doesn't look like KT is aware of this Faker is really struggling in mid though. Looks like he is gonna have to take the first back, so maybe there's an opportunity there. As now they do know, but can they go for an invade here? Doesn't look like it. BDD also backing now, so before he's back to lane, it's not really gonna be a window, and Guma and Kara still have bot lane prio.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to work out too badly for Pioshik because he's able to pick up the Scuttle Crab. I do wonder, though, if he's going to try and re-invade on Owner's Raptors here. And you actually see Owner pinging towards the top side, looking to deny this.
See if he can do so. Pioshik, yeah, he's just level 3. He's coming in behind Faker, as they do know that the Skarner is here. And now Faker going to be knocked towards the wall. He does dodge the knock up here. He goes for the ghost, but he's basically just running in circles, waiting for Owner to come on over, who is going to bail him out. But now a bit of damage into Owner as well. The Unbind comes in and forces the flash from Owner. The flash on in for BDD, and he gets first blood just like that.
And this is a bleed out from mid going behind. The wave bounce back. Faker pushes up. Pioshik, he gets denied the Raptors, so he goes, well, what else can I do but gank mid? Owner has to move in to try and save his mid laner. And the end result is KT getting massive boon. And the jungler who is behind really appreciating that.
Big thing there is that with the knockup from BDD not hitting and Pioshik not slamming him to the wall, I think Faker probably would have been fine just walking it up, but they actually end up looking for the 2v2. Vi trying to get the most out of that conquer early on, and I think that's what ends up being the main issue. Because as we can see, initial setup here, not finding the Q3 and not finding the wall slam. With the ghost,
keep going.
It's just not enough. And
go for Vi.
The fact that Owner, I think, could have flashed a lot earlier here and denied a lot of the Skarner damage.
Got him.
Could have probably kept him alive.
I'm just questioning because surely they knew that Pioshik was there. I think Faker should have just, I know he wanted to crush the wave, but stood back and just hit it with E. I think him being that far forwards,
right?
Yeah, I think him being that far forwards, it feels like there's a miscommunication. Owner specifically went to defend his top side, and yet Faker left himself out of position when they should have known the Skarner was there.
We have a little setup from T1 on the bottom side. They're not going to go for it, thinking about diving depth, but they don't know exactly where Barrel is. Also, want to note the interesting lane swap that we have here. Not the, bot lane and the top lane, actually, but it's just Rumble in mid. They've matched the Rumble into the Nasus, which is a very difficult lane for the Nasus. And they've thrown BDD up to the top side, who already has a kill. Not going to have a lot of kill pressure onto the Ornn, but maybe with that first kill. And really just to set up this Rumble matchup makes things very difficult, even more difficult for Faker.
Faker also, because he was playing into Yone, actually going for 3 points in Q, not in E, so he doesn't have as much wave crush you normally do. And we have cloth armor for Faker and mantle for Zeus, so that means that both BDD and Perfect are playing into an opponent that's itemized for the opposite damage source. And KT looking completely revitalized here early on in the second game.
Yeah, this is a horrible scenario for the Nasus into the Rumble. The Wither obviously doing nothing as well. So T1 are adjusting their lanes now to try and compensate. They are setting a trap for Perfect here.
Yeah, a little bit of a trap. I mean, Barrel's here as well, and could try to go for it, though. The flash on in, the Ornhorn going to be blown here as well. Perfect not even bothering to flash, and it's going to bite him back, as that is the kill. Owner comes in and just way too much CC, more than Perfect was expecting.
Just flash it. I don't think there's a reason to risk it in that situation and see if you can survive, especially the follow-up coming in, the satchel from Guma. I think the thought process was, well, the Bard stuns down. How much more can they really do? The answer is that. They definitely had more gas in the tank.
Big thing is that with the objectives being down, normally if you end up getting or investing in a kill like that for KT, maybe you can then play for Dragon, right? Try and get a grub or two, but there isn't anything on the map. So you saw as well, Pioshik is like, can I gank bot? Was spotted by the ward, and that's just kind of the end of the play. So big win there for T1, being able to get a kill onto Owner. Vi definitely one of the junglers that uses the gold decently well. One big thing that is really nice for KT though is that once Kaisa is able to get out of lane, get to like at least the first item, I think she starts feeling a lot more safe. Yeah, get to just freely push out the waves. And obviously the free item breakpoint is, I think, where we're really gonna start to see Deft take over the game. But even just getting through the laning phase without any big experience disadvantages is gonna be a really big deal.
Yeah, and I don't know, maybe Perfect leaving it too late, thinking he had more time to flash, or maybe just thinking he could survive it. But either way, good setup from T1, good answer back, and punishing the Rumble.
Do you guys get the feeling that even after seeing this much Ziggs, sometimes players will disrespect the satchel?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
I feel like we see it so often, even aiming in the series against T1, just utilizing it so well. It can do a lot, and I feel like, you know, when you're getting first pick Rumble, you really want them to be doing a bit more than sitting on 0-1 and, you know, just barely being ahead of the Ornn at this point in time. So we'll see if Perfect can get back on his feet.
These lane assignments still all over the place, as now we have BDD playing into Guma. I think Guma just got his flashed forced, used his ultimate as well as his flash. BDD's ult is down, so I imagine that he was able to get, obviously, Yone has so much dive threat that Ziggs shouldn't really be laning into him. And Faker, due to these constant swaps and the plays that have happened in mid lane as well, where he had to back off, really has not been looking good in terms of CS. Like, and especially if you go for the Nesses with a lot of early points in queue, you want to try and snowball that and get to a high number of stacks as soon as you possibly can. It's able to, as we expected, I think, really put a lot of pressure on in this laning phase.
Yeah, getting a substantial lead, and obviously there's a lot of setup from T1, a lot of pick potential, so perhaps that's something they're going to lean on. But yeah, we can see from the level difference, BDD over a full level ahead of this Nasus, and given how proficient he's been on the pick, he is going to be a problem as this game goes on. A hard champ really to pin down as well. You know, there's a lot of CC on the side of KT, but plenty of scenarios where you're using the Unbound Soul, where even the Vi, if you ult onto him, he can just snap back, drag you into a very rough position.
Yeah, Faker going to be happy to be alone for now, but doesn't look like he's going to be left alone for very long, as he's got his team and the Rumble going down there, as now Deft is in the top lane as the Grubs are spawning here. They might want to get 6 Grubs in this game. Trying to go in his Zeus, but pretty difficult to do that on the Kai'Sa.
Also saw Perfect there at the beginning when that initial crash from Faker came through, really just hiding between the 2 turrets. Afraid that he was going to get dove again. Not going to be the case. T1 instead looking for the cross map. Will be able to pick up the second Dragon here. A lot of less impactful souls still on the map. We'll see which rift we are going to get. And it's Cloud, which there's a lot of members that I think use the Cloud Rift really well here on either side.
Yeah, I honestly don't think Cloud is that bad. Obviously, something like a Hex deck is the ideal, but particularly the Nasus benefits a lot from that movement speed at close distance.
Trying to clear the wave here. He's got Keria to just stasis everything up there, and this is an Ornn as the Impale will come in, but the stun is there from Keria, and the knockup from the Ornn, but Deft, he lives just barely, and eventually does go down to Keria's auto. Barrel as well is going to bite the dust eventually as Faker comes in, just collects a kill. Not half bad at the end of the day as T1 take the gold lead.
Yeah, really well played by Keria there to stall that out, to find the play turnaround. Not sure exactly what happened in the bot lane, though.
Looks like they were trying to set up a play onto Perfect. Ended up costing Owner his flash, and they don't actually end up getting the kill.
It's a hard dive.
Yeah, the flash from Perfect there on the Q to ensure that he's fine. But this TP actually ends up being huge because it means that BDD then can't TP to the top half of the map, and ends up being a trade 1-for-1, but again, with what happening on the other side, T1's always going to take that.
Yep, absolutely. This play worked out really well. Wave pretty thinned out, but not fully cleared. But Zeus managing to finish it off there. Deft starts taking tower hits, and then this ult that gets caught by the stun. And at this point, there's just nothing Deft can do. He just gets taken out by Keria.
And then the flash, and he's just within range of the Ornn knockup. Zeus also, I think, playing that really well, setting up the wave clear, then using his W to get the remaining few minions. And now gold lead has swung back in T1's favor. Could be looking for something on Faker. Again, I think this Nasus is very, very weak, but already reinforcements on the way here for T1.
Yeah, and I mean the setup here from the side of T1, especially because Pocic is just
dead. He's just
alone
dead.
Farming in the jungle. I mean, he's Skarner, he can go through walls. Surely he's dead.
Yeah, he's gone through walls towards T1's base.
Yeah, only question is who gets the kill. It will be the Vi. Just net gold pretty well, as you mentioned before, Chronicler, and yeah, that's just a straight up mistake, and it feels like, you know, KT, they had a very good start to this game. It's a much closer game. This isn't anything like game number 1, but feels kind of bad for them to really get back on the horse, but then immediately be knocked off of it once again. Especially when you had Faker really in the hole. He's very behind on farm, but at least he got that kill and assist, and Thanasis it's going to take a while for him to be relevant in this game anyway, but at least he's not as far behind as, let's say, Perfect in game 1.
Yeah, and I feel like once he starts getting some stacks together, he'll still be a threat in the mid-game. The Wither's going to still have a lot of value on BDD in particular, and this game is feeling a little bit like for KT, BDD or bust at this point. You know, Depth's farming up fairly well, to be fair, but it feels like Perfect hasn't... I mean, he managed to get like the turnaround kill on the bot side, but I haven't really been inspired so much by his Rumble so far.
We'll have to see. KT do have the Kaisa, especially once Deft hits level 11, we'll be able to assist inside. So maybe BDD already, I think, will be really hard to match for T1. And then you can then try to use his power combined with the fact that it's easy for Kaisa to collapse as a possible source of pressure come mid-game. But that does require a good amount of finesse, which does for our KT have, I think, definitely been lacking. Perfect. Maybe looking for a back and then TPing back in. Deft's clearing this mid wave, which does give T1 the space. Zeus on the flank has his ultimate available.
It's about to get very interesting. Let's see, BDD looking for the knockup, and now the Ornhorn's going to be called. Nice little angle, but a big engage from Barrel into the equalizer, and Impale! It's just a massive wobble that comes in. T1 are trying to turn something. They do get the 1 kill, and a massive Bard ult as well. But at the end of the day, do they have to follow up damage to kill any of these low health members is the question. Guma trying his best to do exactly that, but he can't get the 1 kill. Carrier's going to go down, and BDD is still alive. And it's Guma Usier bust, but he is gone as KT win a gigantic team fight.
That's the Wombo combo dream right there as Barrel sets it up, Yoshik knocks it down, and that Rumble pick toasting the entirety of T1.
Holds them still, rakes them over the coals, and KT get the ace, but still a bit scrappy. I think a big thing was the fact that BDD and Depth couldn't immediately follow up on the targets. But the job gets done, a big swing in favor of KT off the back of that play. We'll see coming in, so initially Carrier kind of baiting out skills here, and this is the big factor. BDD's Unbound Soul used, and Depth also gets knocked up, so the follow-up isn't there immediately, but just holds them over the fire here. And it does get a little bit messy, you know, Depth gets focused down, Beryl ends up killing Faker and then also chasing down Carrier, which is just the most Beryl thing ever, but he deserves those kills after that ult, I'm going to be honest.
Perfect also barely living there with the shield, and BDD, if he goes unchecked in these longer fights and just can get spell rotation after spell rotation off, Yone is going to add so much damage to your composition. And now look at the kills as well. A lot of those go in to BDD. Again, also a double for Barrel, which is very funny given how this game started. That goal not going to excite you as much, but BDD in particular being this far ahead is a big deal, and now possible soul point fight on the table here.
Yeah, I mean, T1 are going to start this one up, and they're, you know, still in a pretty decent spot to try to start it, but the issue is that KT, the massive gold influx that they got from that last fight is pretty huge, and, you know, BDD's teleport, I think, at this point in time is going to be much more impactful than Faker's teleport, so a good lane here for BDD, but also a better guy who will be joining the fight if one does break out around this Cloud Drake.
Faker also can't cancel BDD's TP, but BDD can cancel Faker's, right? So if BDD decides to teleport in, there isn't really a whole lot that Faker can do besides try to damage him as much as possible, as Barrel does not care about your measly turret. They will just slam this down, gonna trade that for the bot side outer. This is again just continued setup. BDD does now finish his Noon Quiver, and it looks like both teams not wanting to risk it just yet.
I think it's so dangerous being inside the Dragon Pit against both of these teams. If you get trapped in there by the front line of T1 and Ziggs is free firing, it's a big concern. And on the other side, the flank threats, the dive potential from KT is there. So T1 kind of backed off, moved away from it. And now KT, they've gone for their resets. A little bit late to the punch here, and they could just end up giving over Soul Point if they don't move quickly. It's already half HP. It is a Skarner can get over walls, though.
They're going to get the ults from Carrier in there, and yeah, the Skarner goes in, and it just goes over to Pyoshik, and they do have this magical journey. Barrel trying to follow, but he just says, no, it's not worth it. We got the Drake. We don't need the kill. We're already ahead, and we will deny the Cloud Soul point from T1.
Really good moves there from Pyosik, and the thing is, they weren't even aware. You can see the ult from Carrier used on a barrel. Not really a major concern. Pyosik just slides in and manages to get the steal away. A little bit of an early smite from Owner there.
Going to be TP used by BDD, but also Owner's flash as well as Carrier's heal. So there are two big summoners. This match, though, definitely a lot more what I think we were expecting coming into the day. As a reminder, there is no more LCK after this. This is the final fight between these two teams. Whoever wins this best of 5 goes to Worlds. For the loser, it's over as BDD. He's going deep.
Yeah, just doing Yone things, and the Ziggs just not very much like that or appreciate.
He didn't hit so much.
Yeah.
He just got in range, and that's enough.
And he just auto attacks him.
Yeah.
That's enough. That's enough. Yeah, a little bit concerning for Guma here. And he has gone the burst heavy build without the Seraphs. So less safety. And BDD
Faker.
looking out for Faker. No ult though.
Yeah, not gonna force it.
Not the easiest target to cut through, even for BDD with the heavy armor itemization and the Wither. So not opting to overcommit onto that one. But yeah, lead now for KT. They've mitigated the looming threat of the Dragons. And Baron coming up soon. We can see already the vision's been being set up by Carrier to get some control of the area. But I think we'll see KT probably looking to set traps there. I think particularly onto Carrier, you could easily find a window to pick him if he oversteps.
둥지 안으로 들어가야 될 때 내가?
It's just saying I have to go in.
95. There, and obviously a lot of damage coming in, the equalizer being dropped.
나이스
Don't go
나이스.
too far.
다행이다.
Oh, thank
뭐야
God.
뺏었네? 지렸다잉. 오케이.
We stole it. Great job. Okay, let's back.
He's also so tanky. Like, you saw the Vial and the Ziggs ult thrown on him, and it's like, did he even lose health? Yeah, this Skarner gonna be problematic to cut through. And that's one of the concerns with this composition for T1. The only damage really is Ziggs. He has not gone a build that cuts through bulkier targets. He has gone the squishy killer build. So Pyosik's not going to get really DPS down by Guma. The only really major damage threats are, well, Faker doesn't have that many stacks. Owner's a Vi who struggles getting in melee range off the Skarner. I think Pyosik's just going to end up being immortal this game.
Yeah, the real issue is that Owner, I imagine, is going to go Cleaver next, and between W and Cleaver, like, eventually it'll kill Pyosik. But realistically, if Owner is hitting Pyosik in a fight,
Something's wrong.
something is not going well, right? That shouldn't be a thing, as they are playing towards a possible catch on perfect here. Not going to find it. BDD now, second item finished. Same for Deft, and it's that third item that I think is really going to change how a lot of these fights also play out in the neutral, because right now, Owner is not going to be the type of jungler that can just easily keep tanking these Ws. Obviously, both Zeus and Carrier, once he finishes Warmux, will be fine. But still, hitting enough of those onto people like Guma or Owner in the long run is going to be something that KT can rely on to type set up for these dives, right? Like 1 or 2 Ws alone could be enough. As
Okay, that is a big committal, but it's a Carrier ult to deny all the damage, and now T1 are perfectly set up for the wombo combo once again. Equalizer comes down. It's a perfect angle from Perfect, and T1 are burnt to a crisp as KT will win the fight and will take the Baron.
The anti-synergy on display. Carrier goes for the flashy play and then blocks his entire team's damage and hands a Baron straight over to KT. What a misplay. What an unforced error from T1.
you got to imagine if T1 is able to go up 2-0 here, get a win after a basically completely demolishing KT in game number 1, it's going to feel very different. The insanity that the flash redirect on the Q works, and then
Even the
Order
Order
everything.
Ziggs.
I'm not gonna lie, if he'd bought a Seeker's Arm Guard and used it there, I would be saying that's one of the highest value Seeker's Arm Guards. If it would be his own team's Bard, I would have said that was one of the best battles we've seen.
maybe ever.
Yeah, the miscommunication between T1 really biting them. And now with the Baron in hand, KT can keep applying pressure.
It's telling as well that Perfect didn't actually get the Toaster Oven ready this time around, right? And still, they now have enough damage just between BD and Def that the CC combo of Barrel and Pioshik ends up being absolutely huge. And of course, T1 heavily over-investing is not going to get in, but they get the turn, and that's the main goal.
Yeah. I mean, with the Baron just trying to really escalate your gold lead, and now trying to flash on a guy who's invisible, and Owner has to go in. Bit of damage to Ziggs ult over the top, and they finally do get perfect. It's a trade 1-for-1, but Faker is probably going to go down. This is a pretty decent Bard ult, but it's only going to delay the inevitable as Faker, super low, he's in the back line, gets ulted on, down he will go. It's a triple for Deft, who is just running around the fight.
KT were just warming up in game one. We saw in this series against B&K Fearx yesterday that game one was a slow one, not the best performance, but they have ramped up and they are here to contest for that world spot.
KT, this team, very often a complete enigma. What do you get on the day? Are they going to beat Gingy? Are they going to lose to Breon?
What do you get game to game?
It is the full spectrum of gameplay as Deft, great E there, so gets the stealth, means that there isn't an opportunity for Owner. And yeah, eventually they get the turn on the perfect, but...
Well, this is just insult to injury. Guma doesn't have flash, and I think eventually he should die. There you go. Pioshik just gonna pop him on the head with a claw. And it's just a caught Ziggs trying to satchel over a wall, but you're not getting away from Skarner and Yone. Pretty difficult.
That's a big uptick in gold recently. 2 Cloud Dragons kit as well. The Baron is about to time out, and it looks like T1, they do have a lot of pick potential, and it feels like they know they're in a big deficit now, and their approach is just going to be find isolated targets. But I think we're kind of seeing some of the targets very difficult actually to get on top of, and also like Deft can itemize into a Zhonya's, which is obviously fantastic into the Vi. They're continuing this push on the top side, but I don't think you get too much progress with just that wave.
And over the last couple of years, it's important to note as well that now that the Kai'Sa is online, he's getting bonked on the head.
Yeah, Deft just is in melee range against a big Nasus who isn't very fed, but actually it's just a bait all along as Faker's running the other way. There's a Bard ult. Faker's like, I need more stacks. Hold on. Not the best timing there, and now this fight is very broken up. That's a double impale, and both these guys are just dead. As is just caught in the crossfire. He's going to be going down as well. KT just crossing their eyes, crossing their T's, dotting their I's rather. As Faker is still just holding the wave, trying to keep the game alive.
He's just building stacks, right? It's what Nasus does.
Still farming.
Yeah,
eventually he'll get there.
Barrel's going to win this 1v1. Unfortunately, BDD on the way as well.
I mean, I guess he held the wave, but...
Yeah, BDD even QSS is the Wither, so he just need to hit a Q at some point.
Dodge everything! Nah, he's trying his best. I mean, the Nasus can be pretty funky like this. The ult will be committed to as BDD has had enough, and they do take him down.
Yeah, surprise Scorpion showing up at the end there. But as I was saying, if you go back to the Gauntlets the last 3 years, Deft has been there every single time. Still, the most insane run obviously going to be... ironically, 2021 Hanwha, even though 2022 DRX ended up winning, the man has made it every single time. And I'm seeing this as I say that, and I'm like, ooh, not too sure.
It was just a bait. It was just a bait. He landed the barrel.
He baited me. As there we see the
he baited himself.
Dream combo, but Deft with this supercharger still able to just run out. And then here again, we get the combo. I feel like Rumble, we should just leave. I think we are learning every time we see it that just accept that you are down a ban on red side.
Yep, and I will say, you know, the Skarner's been a pretty recent addition in the LCK, and Pioshik has just felt so at home in this pick. The amount of massive impales. Yeah, trying to maximize that magic damage for his team, a lot of value there, but he has just been on form this game, especially considering he was the one who suffered the most in the early shenanigans. He is now just an absolute presence in these fights, constantly catching multiple people, and into a team which has 3 big bulky melee champions. It's not too hard to get high value on the ult, but he's definitely picking a good timing consistently.
Yeah. A lot of the early to mid game was a huge focus on BDD getting very far ahead, Faker being extremely far behind, and it's really only gone further beyond that, right? As BDD once again doing insane damage on the Yone as he did yesterday. He has gotten Yone 2 games in a row, and T1 have not given the respect to that just yet, as Keria this time trying to actually set up a
very
kill.
OP. Can't believe he just used walk.
He utilized the walk strategy.
Very powerful.
In the direction that Keria was not expecting. But yeah, I mean, BDD is just kind of running away with this game. The issue now is that it's not just BDD. It's the entire team is finally kind of grouped up behind him. He was there in game 1 as well, but he was the only one in game 1. So now he's got a team behind him, and KT, 10,000 gold ahead almost, are looking for their second Baron.
All they got to do is turn. Just don't flip, don't risk giving it over. As long as Owner isn't allowed near the pit, does a flash and ult.
Well, they're trying to keep him out of the pit, and there is the turn. A lot of wombo combo bouncy castle behind the wall there.
He's dead.
Yeah, BDD goes down, and Baker's pretty tanky. A big impale, but Potion getting low. I think the wallets might just be a bit too heavy, though. A pretty decent fight, all things considered, but the wallets are there for the side of KT. Extremely messy, and T1 will deny the Baron for now.
It's not clean, but it's KT. Everything's fine. They have enough threats. That almost gets the kill there. Going to be setting up for Soul Point here. And again, I think a bit of a messy fight's not the end of the world. As long as you don't give over the Baron and the bounty and allow T1 to really stay in the game for another 5 minutes, that's not going to be the case.
I think considering, just watch BDD and the amount of CC he fits in, considering this game, this wasn't a stop fight for T1, it shows the wallet dip. He gets immediately violated over the wall, then he gets knocked up, then he gets knocked up, then he gets knocked up, then he dies. That is the story of BDD, that fight, as the most fed member of the team. And still, the fight isn't a immediate win for T1, and it just goes to show like how far behind T1 are, and also the lack of damage really for this comp. Guma's going towards Rabadon's third, so nowhere near pen items. And look at the items on the other side. So the Skarner's super fed has an Abyssal, Perfect's going to have Jack Show. You know, we have the Zhonya's from Death, which isn't given MR, but obviously lets you dodge damage. Even just like the QSS Magic Resist on BDD. The Locket from Barrel, they are really going to struggle to cut through these targets. So even if KT does misexecute, I just think they don't have the damage on T1 to really punish.
You need Guma to get a Void Staff, right? I think that's something that is going to be at least somewhat of a difference maker. I just don't know if we're going to get to that point in the game.
There's also the fact that KT have 3 Cloud Drakes. Not always what you'll see, but just the fact that they're slowly stacking up Cloud Drakes and they might even get Cloud Soul, it's just more damage avoidance from them.
You think of a BDD stepping out up the...
Oh, okay. The Zhonya's going to have some big value there as BDD finds Guma, and you see the Ornn is desperate to try to save him, but he will go down anyway, and BDD will survive. The wallets are just gigantic right now on the side of KT. They take down the 2 carries, and that might just do it. KT Rolster looking for their first win in the series. Isaiah is desperate to just try to stop the wave from going down, but the TP will come in. And it's only Keria as Steph 1 kill away from Legendary, I believe, here, as they will look to push to end and win game 2.
And this best of 5 after game 1 looked a little dicey, but KT bounced back in a big way. And the telecom war continues for this final world spot as the Nexus falls here in game number 2.
The Nexus will fall, and we do, in fact, have a series on our hands. Anyone can take it from here, as KT have decided it's a bit late, but we will show up and actually play the game and give you a challenger against T1.
And you know, you can never really be sure what you're going to get out of a series like this, as you hear the KT fans going super loud there, supporting the team. But I think one thing I was certain on is it wasn't going to be a 3-0. KT didn't really show up game 1, but they are not going to go down without a fight.
It's so peak KT that Hirai has the same expression. After a game where, by all accounts, they really were in control right from the early game, able to win some of the early skirmishes. T1, that mid-game fight, that turn around Baron could have been the difference maker, but
the thing to think about with Hirai is we see so many wacky KT games in the LCK, but he also sits through their scrims, and we know the scrims are going to be even wackier, so that is a man who has seen too much.
He definitely has, maybe too much for one man and one team, as BDD's on top of the damage charts again.
He's playing with a rumble.
Yeah. And you know, Perfect had good ults towards the end. Definitely a bit of a redemption after a rough game 1.
Yeah, showed up there with the team. Some really good team fighting from the side of KT, and they're back on the horse. They have a chance in this series, but we are done after game 2. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back.
나풀 있거든? 나 팅크 잡았어? 나 살았어. 여기서 봐줘, 여기서 봐줘. 나 살았고? 봐줄게. 나눠서. 나눠갈게. 나 펠로 올게. 바위 봐줄 사람? 끝내자. 나 이거 하나 없으니까 괜찮아? 괜찮아. 없어. 막으란다, 이거 봐줄래? 나 이거 길게 하면 이 되길 것 같긴 한데. 괜찮아. 끝났어.
내가 핑할게.